What's up everyone, MK Tom Brady here. So in this video, I want to talk about what in the world has to happen to fix this mess of a game and this mess of a community. Really, community is such a big part of a game. They go hand in hand. And we are divided for a reason that shouldn't be here. So normally when a community is divided, it's because hey, people want different things. Not everybody agrees. Welcome to the world. No, we all agree. We know it has to get done, yet we fight all the time anyway. And it's because really communication from NetherRealm. So if NRS wouldn't leave people hanging on a thread wondering what's going on, when will something get done, will something ever get done, you wouldn't have this constant back and forth between the two sides. One side of when is this going to happen? What is happening? Nothing's ever going to happen. And the other side is have faith. It'll happen in due time. Have faith, my child. That side. And when there's lack of communication, and it should be obvious by now just how important communication is. People love Tekken not just for the game or Street Fighter, but for the level of communication that you get. And we don't get that in NetherRealm games. So when you don't communicate, it kind of causes kind of an angry mob type of feel. And even if you're on the side of have faith, when nothing gets done or there's no communication, you eventually get angry, come over to the angry mob side, and the angry mob grows, and nothing ever gets, no change for the better ever really happens. So I just want to show a couple of examples here of what I mean by poor communication and things executed improperly. So Quan Chi came out about a month ago, and there was a desync issue in Combat League. Now, the right thing to do would be right away get on top of this, say something. NRS went 25 days before even acknowledging this was an issue. And when they tweeted that they finally acknowledged it, a few days later a patch was launched. So patch was launched on January 12th, 2024. In the patch notes, it says it fixed the desync issue that occurs during Combat League sets on Xbox and PS5. And they also went ahead and tweeted the same. The latest MK1 patch addressing desync issues is now live on Xbox and PS5. Update, make sure you're combat ready. And this, again, you see is January 12th. Well, as it turns out, that didn't fix anything at all. The exact same issues happened. It wasn't even 1% better. So basically, they tweeted something. Not only was the communication poor to start, what they should have done the very first day took them 25 days to do, to even acknowledge there was a problem. Then they tweet that there's a fix. Patch note says there's a fix. Nothing happened. Then, of course, the side of the community have faith. They'll fix it with Chameleon, right? Well, Chameleon gets launched. More patch notes happen on the 16th. Fix the desync issues that occurred during Combat League sets. This is on all platforms, so now it should really be fixed. It doesn't get fixed, and of course, then NRS finally tries to do the right thing, get in front of it, and says they're aware of an issue. Now they apologize for the inconvenience. Thank you for your patience. People have been very patient. But fear not, the Chameleon patch did do one thing. It introduced another bug in which smoke is now invisible for the entire fight. It doesn't matter if you hit him, doesn't matter if the round ends, he is just invisible for eternity. So when communication is this poor, and when you implement things and execute things this poorly on top of the lack of communication, even the most positive people, even the most have faith it'll get done people get angry, and they come over to the angry mob side, and everybody just gets more and more angry. And that's pretty much where we are. Lack of communication never helps anything. So hey, crossplay is coming out next month. No one's excited for it because the community kind of has a feeling of, if they mess this up, God knows what kind of issues this could cause. And if it does cause any issues, not only will they not acknowledge it, who knows when it will get fixed, if ever. And that's when people feel that way, and it's actually justified because of, how things have been, these are the problems you're going to get. When you have people say the game is dying. You have those idiots who say it from a place of the game's a flop, it's a failure. To me, those aren't even MK guys. Those people are just, I don't even know what they're talking about. But to me, saying a game is on its way down is basically indicative of, look at where we are. Where the game is as far as player interest, 4 months into the game's life, so where the game is in its lifespan, and the game that had this much hype coming into it, everybody was dying for the next MK game because of what happened with MK11, and just how long we had to kind of suffer through that. This game should have 10 times its level of interest that it has right now. And the interest it has right now is not growing, it's only going down. And when people bring up, the MK scene has a lot of casuals, it's all casuals, that's all the problem is. That's not true. Or there's no money. 30,000, that's not enough money for us. I'm going to bring some reality to everybody here. Street Fighter 6 at their first Evo had 7,000 entrants. Do we really believe that all 7,000 were there to win money? And they were all there. Everyone there was a pro player. Even if I severely overshoot this and say 1,000 of those players were there, were pros, that still leaves 6,000 people who were there simply because they loved the game. They weren't there to win money. Nothing along those lines at all. Now, if you look at how well MK1 sells over its other fighting game competitors, you see it has more players buying the game, but the support of the community is nothing compared to other games. And when people love their game, look at Tekken. Look how much love there is in this. When the developers are this, when they communicate this well with the community, and when they let people know exactly what's going on and really make the community feel like they're being listened to, you have a big tournament scene. The fact that, $30,000, NRS right now could hold a $10,000 tournament, we wouldn't even hit 300 entrants offline. And if you held a regional Street Fighter tournament for $10,000, if you held a Street Fighter tournament for $10,000, you'd probably get 3,000 people to show up. And this is just the difference. You can hold a regional Street Fighter tournament. I'm sure with Tekken will be the same, for basically no money, and 500 people will show up to a regional, yet you can't get 300 to show up to a major for Mortal Kombat. So money isn't necessarily the issue, it's that people just aren't happy. And a lot of that starts with the communication and how things are executed in the game. So if NRS does not change how they communicate, or they have a model that says we will never, ever communicate well, then it's not ever going to be happy days, probably ever again, because everyone else, other fighting game companies are doing this because it's what works. And NRS, their refusal to up how they handle things, the quality of everything, how things are done to match their competition, has really been hurting them. Next thing I want to talk about, of course, is the game itself. So, with the launch of Chameleon, a lot of people are praising NRS, and this is good. If you want something to change, the best thing to do is to praise them when they do something right. The problem is, we go overboard. This should be considered NRS. This is a step, a small step in the right direction. But guess what happens? Nope. Community comes out. Haha, you thought the game was on its way down? Look at how many people love Chameleon. But guess what? If nothing else changes, like Sonic Fox said in this bottom post here, eventually, no matter what, that will wane. And then what? And that's really what NRS does not do well. And then what? There's a reason why, if you look at other tournament scenes for other fighting games, their numbers next to us. It's because Mortal Kombat has this thing where they are able to obtain more people than anyone, but are terrible when it comes to the ability to retain people. MK retains very few people, whereas other scenes do. So when you look at a character, cameo like Chameleon, this is where, now obviously NRS has done, there's so much that outweighs the good that has been done. This is not going to turn anything around. So slight praise is good, but kind of doing a blow up where like, oh, and you said this game was dead, look at them, people love the game. Well, the next 10 mistakes NRS makes, that other side is going to then blow you up and say, well, I thought you said the game was on its way up. And then it's just more bickering with the community, We need to kind of get on the same page here. So for one, obviously the highs can't be too high and the lows can't be too low from the community. So while this is a step in the right direction, while this shouldn't be praised on a mountaintop, it should be praised. And if they start stringing together a series of things that are doing well, multiple cameos getting buffed, new cameos being good, multiple characters being powered up, then we continue to praise, and then and they communicate with us, then we start to slowly move into where we need to be. But all that needs to happen. When I look at the characters in this game, there are just some things that I don't understand. Also, Chameleon, by the way, there needs to be a timer on when she's going to switch. You need to be able to, corner of your eye, exactly see the timer on when she's going to switch. Another thing is like, Gearus. You probably need to put an hourglass counter so you know where he is with the hourglasses. That would also help as well. So little small things like that, I think, would help. Just in the game, I'm not sure why those things aren't even the way they are. The next thing is you look at the characters, and I really don't understand the two philosophies we have in this game. Clearly, NRS does not want archetypes anymore. Archetypes really help with play diversity. You have grapplers, you have offensive characters, and then you have defensive characters. And there are multiple scopes of a grappler, multiple like offensive characters. You can have pressure characters. You can have mixed characters, defensive characters. You can have, or like zoning characters. You can have zoners, runaway characters, trappers, etc. All things exist in that archetype. And then you have grapplers. There are different kinds of grapplers and how they can work. And when you put this triangle up against each other, the grappler versus the zoner / defensive, any one of the defensive archetypes up against any one of the offensive archetypes or against any one of these grappling archetypes, and you put them all up against each other, you have a really good story of gameplay going on the screen that's very captivating, interesting to the audience, and keeps the players hooked. NRS is obviously not going to do archetypes, or they would have done that already. So all they can really do is have one philosophy to the game. Like, you can't look at a character like Kenshi, who's a puppet character, whose Sento is out for 15 seconds with no cooldown, and say, yeah, it's a puppet character, assist game, and then look at Sub-Zero's Ice Clone and not apply the same logic that you apply to Sento to here. Or even a character like Reptile. Like Reptile, to me, it's not even hard to be creative. You could take... Okay, I understand why his Force Ball has so much delay on it as far as your recovery, because it's two projectiles in one if it contacts another projectile immune move, which almost everybody seems to have at least one of those in this game. At least most characters do. And then it becomes a second projectile briefly. If they would just make it so the regular Force Ball was just one single projectile, only Reptile recovered right away from it, so as soon as it leaves his hands he can move, and then the EX Force Ball has the Force Ball recovery now, but it's two projectiles, that would go a long way to Reptile. And just an idea of even some of the most simplest ideas can really add to these characters and creativity. Why NRS looks at some characters and say, you should be powered up, it's an assist game, we all know who those are, and then look at other characters and say, well, let's play it safe and be careful. You have two philosophies that are existing at the same time, which one does not work hand in hand with the other. So a game is being pulled apart by two contradicting philosophies. That's why you get characters that are bland and characters that are fun and exciting. It's also why you get an assist like Chameleon. Hey, let it go. Let it hit the fan, brother. And then you get Shujinko. You know, oh, well, we don't know. This could be too much. Let's be careful. And this is Chameleon to Shujinko is literally the perfect example of two different philosophies existing at the same time. It doesn't work. So what we want to see is more of Chameleon. I think we should praise this to a certain extent, the Chameleon thing, because it is a step in the right direction, but not go overboard with, praise the Messiah. The game has been saved, because we're not there yet either. And the thing is, if NRS were to communicate right now, if they released a tweet tomorrow that said, we are aware that players are not happy with and going, like, we understand what's a given. The online is abysmal for this game. The netcode is not very good. You can't even block 30 frame overheads half the time. Even some of the connections that should be good ping-wise have horrible rollback a lot of times. The way how bad King of the Hill is, there's no Forever King, no practice mode while searching, while queuing, no individual character rankings in Combat League mode that a character locks you. Besides lack of the options and the online, which is a killer. Then you have the characters. And if NRS were just to tweet out, hey, we understand, the issues. We are working on many changes to the characters and cameos. We have heard you guys. Even if it took them 6 months to implement this, we would understand. Because we know they heard it and it's on the way, and we would be hyped and anticipate it. It would also stop more of the bickering. When someone says, oh, this is too bland or too whatever, people say, oh, that's not the case. It's just, you're just being whatever. But if even NRS comes out and says, hey, we understand this is the issue, nobody's bickering about that anymore. We all agree, for once, things need to be touched and changes on the way. Happy days. And until these things start happening, and it all starts with communication. Until these things start happening, this game is at a place, it is doomed to repeat MK11. Now, this game's the actual combat in this game will never be MK11, because MK11 was terrible. Worst fighting game to ever be made. And this game is not that. However, if things stay the way they are, think of how low the interest is now. A year from now, this interest will be maybe 25% of what it is today, and it's not where it needs to be today. So NRS needs to make these changes, and if they need time, should tell us these things are on the way, but give us time. We will, and things will be much better if you don't keep us in the dark. We'll know changes on the way, and we'll look forward to it. But it really, again, it depends on, it all starts with NRS. We can try to build this community, but we can't do it as it is. If NRS is not willing to help us at all, I don't really know how anything can ever change, ever. Thanks for watching, everyone. I would love to hear your feedback on this, and stay tuned for more content.